Hello everybody and welcome to IRL Season 14 F1 Round 2 here in Imola. Last week we saw a very eventful race in Bahrain. It was very exciting indeed, where we saw Edward Hart take second place, Brandon Glover the third place, and a new driver altogether, Liam, taking his first race win this season, who I believe is not here today. I also forgot their username, so that's unfortunate, but I can tell you their name is Liam. So, a reserve driver took the win last week, meaning that the Constructors' Championship is a little bit different. It's a little bit spiced up due to that, because reserve drivers cannot earn points, but it'd be interesting to see how many points reserve drivers can stack up over the course of the season. But Edward Hart coming in second and Alfioli finishing 7th last week meant that the Red Bull team ended up with 26 points at the end of their tally, putting them on top of the Constructors' Championship as of right now, which is lovely to see. And hello Coca-Cola, welcome to the little stream. We've got 12 minutes to go in qualifying, so we're not really going to pay too much attention to the lap times right now, because who really cares? Everything will change by the end unless there's a dramatic crash or something, and we'll turn to that. But right now, looking at the early times, you've got Edward Hart on top, Brandon Glover in second, and Alfioli in third, which can be expected with Cameron Young sitting behind him in fourth. Kind of usual suspects up in the top 5 there, but it's again looks like it's going to be down to Brandon Glover, Edward Hart, and maybe even Alfioli, as he looks like he's been picking up the pace since last season. He's starting to look quite quick. I didn't think he had it in him last season. He wasn't looking too strong, wasn't looking too confident, but these last couple of weeks he's been showing a bit of pace. Currently 2/10 off his teammate, but only 1 behind Brandon, who, again, I will mention it millions of times throughout this season, had a great big championship fight with Brandon. And of course his teammate Edward Hart did the exact same last season. So, speaking of Alfa Romeo and Brandon Glover, they're currently sitting in third in Constructors. Kevin Harrison didn't have the best race of his life last week. A couple of little moments, and Brandon Glover got very, very, very lucky indeed to be able to keep his car going and somehow get on the podium after a big incident knocked him out of that, and then a dramatic final few lap safety car meant that he had the opportunity to get back up onto that podium, which was absolute scenes. I've just seen somebody off in the gravel. That's MCFC. That is really strange. I was wondering why there was a ghost car on the track, but you know, never mind. How interesting. But in second right now we've got the two Lewises, Lewis Millam and Lewis Charles, who kind of stuck into second place, finishing 5th and 6th last week, which is pretty consistent, solid results. But honestly, I didn't really notice. It just kind of came out of nowhere. But only 5 teams in total actually scored points last week, the remaining 2 being McLaren and Ferrari. So that's oh my god, I forgot his name. Cameron Young and Lewis Curtis both finishing in the points for McLaren, totaling up to 13, and then Jared and Sondre both coming home with a few points for Ferrari with 4 points. But Sondre wants to get his act together this season. I mean, he's been known as Bottle Haug for a while now, and it'd be nice to see him break out of that shell finally, but he isn't here today, unfortunately, so we're left with big Nino Romanello, the reserve driver, going into his native Ferrari, the Italian Welsh man, sitting in that nice red machine that he loves ever so much, along with his Sheffield born and bred Jared Fosbury, currently sitting in 8th, which is not time he wants to go. But speaking of the man, in one of his home races, don't forget, Imola is in Italy, so it's a 1:15.8, which is a quick lap time. 4/10 quicker than Edward Hart, one of the drivers that we expect to be right at the top. 4/10 quicker than he is Nino. So very well done to him. I also need to get myself a drink because my throat was killing me, so I'll be back in a sec. Hello, I return. Now, as we get into the final 8 minutes or so of qualifying, this is when the times are going to start heating up. Now, this is when it's going to start getting a little bit interesting now. Now is about the time where drivers are going to start sending their kind of second lap, building up their pace. They've warmed up in the first, and now it's time for them to really show off their pace. And as you can see, Nino, who went 4 tenths quicker than Edward Hart, our previous provisional pole sitter, now he's dropped down to 4th with Lewis Curtis, Alfioli and Cameron Young all beating his time by a considerable margin, 6 tenths, 5 tenths and 1 tenth respectively. So the McLaren team looking strong today, Nino looking alright. I mean, now as you can see, MCFC's car is just stuck, stranded on the track, which is an interesting sight to behold. I'm not sure what's happened there, but it's the game bugging out and being weird. Because he's been stuck in the pit lane this entire time. I'm not sure if that's going to result in a restart or what it's going to mean in the race. But either way, there is a distracting, nice ghosted car out on the track right now. But all eyes are on Edward Hart right now. He wants to preserve his championship, of course. And last week proved he had the pace for it. Couldn't quite keep up with Liam, who was truly impressive. But of course, coming in second place is no easy feat, and he's shown that he has got pace almost quicker than Brandon again. So if he can keep up this consistency, then certainly he has a chance of winning this championship once more. But Lewis Curtis as well is a driver that we expect a little bit more from, because last week he was looking strong, looking good, and eventually had a little spin and a crash and dropped himself all the way down to 10th, only picking up 1 measly point. So coming into this season again, he had a mathematical chance of winning the championship last time. Unfortunately missed out due to a few mistakes. Now this season he's going to want to improve on that. A slightly longer calendar with 14 races compared to last time's 12. So Lewis is going to look to redeem that and keep within the championship fight right to the very end once more, but hopefully in a slightly more competitive position. The Alfa Romeo team as well want to keep a hold of their Constructors' Championship, that being Brandon Glover and Kevin Harrison. Last time they were in the Aston Martin. Having a quick change of colours for this time, going to the red and white, the best looking car on the grid in my humble opinion. Of course, 2 very consistent drivers, finish well most of the time, finish in the top 10, probably about 98% of the time. That's what they're going to look to do again. Kevin currently sitting down in 12th, but we know that he can go quicker. Of course, playing the second driver role to his teammate, which is what he seems to usually do for the most part with Brandon, as of course Brandon is fighting for championships. Kevin Harrison is normally just about scrambling for mid-table points, but for a man of his caliber, previous championship winner of course, and constructors and drivers, he's going to want to try and get himself back into that former glory he had and start fighting for podiums once again. Of course, he was a F2 merchant for a time, and now this is F1 where it's the best of the best in IRL, so a little bit more tricky for him, and I'm not sure he's quite got the time to practice as he would have done, but I think Kevin Harrison still has a bit more to give and can give us some good results. But Nino coming on invalid lap time, so we're going to go on board with Lewis Curtis, who's going through one of the many chicanes of this track, leaving it up to the slowest one of them all with the highest curbs. You can get a good amount of cut on this corner if you try hard enough, and it looks like Lewis does just that. So the exit on there is very important, as you can see, Lewis getting his rear just a little bit kicked out. Very important you get that exit right, and the entry, the line, everything about it to not invalidate but keep your speed is very, very tricky. Now the final 2 corners, as you can see, really running on the line, really getting close to invalidated, but still managed to keep it perfectly precise, and he's going to cross the line, set provisional time, pole position time of 1:15.1, going 1 tenth quicker than his teammate behind him, except it looks like Cameron Young could be going to improve on this time now. A little bit of a snap on the exit, and here he goes putting into the pits. That's really anticlimactic. Cameron, I dislike you. Hello Sandre, nice to see you. I'm disappointed you're not racing. Disgusting behaviour. As you can see, everybody now putting into the pits as we wait for everyone to come around to put on their nice new fresh happy tyres to go for one final push. With 3 minutes left to go, we're going to have to wait about a minute and a half for people to start coming back out to set that one final time. Look at it now, the McLaren team is looking very, very, very strong. Both sitting 1 and 2 as of right now, which of course we expect from these 2 drivers. Very, very quick, but they both have the big habit of being very, very inconsistent on top of that. So for this McLaren team to succeed, on paper could be the strongest team on this grid. When you look at it, when you think about raw pace and raw talent, the McLaren team is a 100% up there to win this championship. But unfortunately, when it comes to race day, when it comes to crunch time, they just don't quite have the bottle. And we've got the firm grip. So it's just about keeping it on the track. And when we think about the strategy of this race, of course everybody's starting on the softs. Soft hard, could be possible soft medium, I'm not sure. If I'm truly honest, a 2-stop even, God forbid. So there's plenty of options coming into this race. But let's not forget about the possibility of rain. As Lewis Curtis retires from the session. Looks like it's just in the pit lane, so he's had enough already. Satisfied with his 15.1. That could be beaten by his teammate or Alfieri or Edward Hart. As we've got 3 teams all stacked up in a row. That's very satisfying to see. McLaren, Red Bull, Ferrari. Going back a few years there, going back to 2012 or so. But yeah, like I said, rain is possible around this track, so that's something we're going to have to look out for. It's happened before, it can be tricky. A Red Bull favourite to take the title? I would agree. Actually, well, in terms of people keeping it on the track, Red Bull would definitely be the favourites, I think. Although Alfieri last season, I don't think was right at the top 5 every single race. Sometimes he was dropping down to the 8th, 9th. Wasn't quite with it the entire time. Edward Hart, of course, won the championship. He can't really fault that. Made very few mistakes, but Alfieri, right now, looking very quick. 4/10 quicker than his teammates, so he's definitely proving me wrong as of now. But last season, I don't think he quite showed everything he can. And there you go, MCFC finally gets disqualified for parking in a illegal location, which is interesting. You got a nice 6-minute lap time from Alfieri there apparently, but now here he goes to begin his final fast lap. 40 seconds left to go. Yellow flags all over the track. Everybody's out on the track right now besides Shane and MCFC have both retired from this session, deciding not to go for another. As you can see, Alfieri gone through the first chicane, now in second, very hard to get right, highest speed chicane as I know, coming into the hairpin. I've forgotten about 80% of the corner names, or all the corner names in fact, but the hairpin again, another place that is very key on traction, running out onto the curb as well, something that can kick out your tyre, especially in the rain when puddles start to form. It's a little bit greasy, very difficult. Now into a nice high speed left-hander, and a slightly longer one. You could kind of consider it a long continuation of a corner, but not quite. Into another kind of Australia-esque chicane. Oh, Alfieri really getting on the edge of his seat there. Apparently setting the fastest sector 1, it looks like, or it looks like a sector, but yeah, sector 2, sorry, yeah. He is going fastest as of right now, even though it looks like he was slower than his previous time. Coming to the final 2 corners now, again, crucial to get right, running all the way out onto the edge. Oh, he's gone wide into gravity, spins! It's Alfieri's qualifying is over as he goes off into the wall. It's only going to be 3rd place at best, and that is the weirdest time I've ever seen in my life. Why is this car just spontaneously, not combust, but just falling apart? Okay, and there goes Edward Hart as well, bottling his lap time, and it's Cameron comes across the line with a 15.1. Oh my god, that's close. Only less than 100th of a second behind his teammate. Now it's all down to Nino. Can Nino do anything about it? Into the slowest chicane on the track, really counting the curbs, going out wide. We've seen him do that a few times. Keeps the car valid. The lap time will still stand despite he's going wide, but probably not the best use of time. He possibly could. Might be having a little bit of dirty air from that Alpine ahead of him. Coming through the final corner, really pushing the limits, doesn't dip to the gravel. This time he's going to come across the line with a 1:15.8, only 200s quicker. That's going to make no difference to his time this time. And there you go, that is everybody done and finished as Edward Hart pulls into the pits after not being able to improve on his lap time. So there you go, there you have it. It's Lewis Curtis who takes the pole this time. Like I said, last week you saw him do very, very well in Bahrain, but unfortunately just couldn't keep it together once again. So Lewis Curtis showing his pace this time in qualifying. We know he's a quick driver, but can he keep it together now in the race? Cameron Young behind him as well. Last season we saw him do great in tracks like France, absolutely dominating until one mistake threw him off, and it's 8 thousandths of a second that split this McLaren team. And this is why I'm saying that they could be the favourites to win this Constructors title if they keep it together. I'm just saying. 8,000 splitting them with 1/10 difference behind them, with Alfieri coming in third, Edward Hart in the fellow Red Bull in fourth, Nino Romanello, the reserve driver, down in fifth. It's Colt Carter coming on in sixth with AlphaTauri, despite saying it's quite slow this track. Not a bad result for him at all. 1 second behind the post though is Brandon Glover in seventh place. Not where he's going to want to start. Jared Salisbury coming home in eighth for the Ferrari team, and it's the Williams team, the Lewises, both coming 9th and 10th to round out the top 10. It's Kevin Harrison who's going to start, I believe, 12th. I couldn't quite see because the quality on my stream is absolutely horrific. And that's not what we would like to see. In just a moment, we're going to start getting a little bit closer to starting this race, about 50 minutes to an hour of hopefully intense, high caliber racing. So, safety cars are very possible around this track. We've seen a few people spin, have a few moments. It is easy to crash, and it's easy to make mistakes. It's a very technically challenging track, so pace is rewarded and can be quite hard to overtake on. I think the first chicane is possible, the hairpin is possible, and that's actually slightly overcast. So I don't think rain is impossible. We have no formation lap once again, so we're going to be going straight into the race in just a moment. Once that countdown starts, we'll have 30 seconds until the red lights come on, and we're going to get underway for round 2 of season 14 here in RF1. But anyway, as the countdown begins, the drivers start to prep their strategies. Of course, they know more about the weather than we. So, the tyres that people start on could end up being crucial if rain does decide to play a factor. Some people could be starting on the hards, trying to get all the way to the end before the rain comes. To start maybe some mediums, trying to push it a little bit longer. Of course, the soft tyres is what everybody qualified on since they changed the qualifying rules, as the top 10 can now pick whatever tyres they really like. Anyway, we're about to get underway as the 5 red lights are on. Now holding for a very long time, and they are gone, and we are underway as it looks like it's quite a slow start from the McLarens, except it actually looks quite quick when we get off into it. And here come the Red Bulls going side by side, coming into the first corner now. Everybody really sacking up at the top of each other. It's going to be very hard to go side by side through here into the first chicane. A nice long run into it, and it's a Ferrari going off into the gravel already. It's Edward Hart who stays in third right now. The Red Bulls aren't making any changes just yet. Cameron Young jumped his teammate to go up into the lead, and these ghosting through each other, truly well inside each other. No room given as Kevin Harrison pushing himself up into 9th there. Jared Fosbury going down into 10th. The Ferrari team not having a good one. MCFC is down at the back of this grid. The same with Joe. As you see, Connors going side by side with MCFC as well, going inside each other once again. The ghost cars really proving handy, as you see Cameron Young also ghosted right now, so it's going to be quite tricky for Lewis Cuts to get through him and just goes through him. That's so boring. This game is broken. I'm not quite sure why Cameron's ghosted, actually. I'm not sure what's happened there, but hello Matthew, welcome to the stream. And it's Alfie Ollie sitting behind his teammate once again, laggy behind Lordia Lewis's, and there goes the Mercedes on the inside, almost making, actually does make contact. It's Phil's trying to go side by side. Who was that? No, the Williams as well. It's Laggy who drops all the way down the order with his front wing going. It's absolute chaos and carnage as Cameron Young is still ghosted. Edward Hart is looking to go in front of him. It's yellow flag sector 1, 2 and 3, so he can't make that move this time. Oh, that was a voice crack. I can't get my words out either. I haven't spoken a word all day. But I'm not sure if this is a full safety car or a virtual safety car. I think that might be a VSC, but starting off straight away, we've already got 3 people in the pit lane, that's being both Lewis's and the cool guy. I'm not sure what his name is, but absolute carnage off the start. The Ferrari teams are reunited, with Nino dropping down a good few positions. Kevin Harrison having a great start, same with Brandon Glover moving up in the 6th and 7th for them as well. McLaren's still looking strong, with Red Bull still sitting behind, so as Lewis Curtis back in front of his teammate as Cameron Young is driving about ghosting. I'm not too sure why. The VSC is holding for a very long time there. You can see the predicted pit stop strategies with mediums to hards looking like the favourites right now. If we go to pretty much everybody's starting on mediums besides a couple of hards. Just wait for this race to get underway again. You can see there's a massive gap between the 2 Alfa Romeo drivers, 4 seconds between them. Really split the top 6 from the rest, and we are racing again. Green flag, sorry. As it looks like it's going to be Edward Hart is just going to breeze through Cameron Young, who isn't in this race at all. He just doesn't exist. The Red Bull team, I think team orders are going to become quite crucial now, as Lewis is almost 2 seconds ahead of his own teammate. As Shane gets past Ross Denham at the back there. Ross Denham dropping down out of the points into 11th, except Shane going a little bit deep. I think Ross wanted to go up the inside but couldn't quite get his turn in. Perfect, as the Alpine is looking slippy on the exit, and the AlphaTauri coming up behind him, except we're going to go back up to the front. Is this Edward Hart behind Cameron Young? He's just going to breeze through him. I keep forgetting that's the thing. That's really disappointing. But Nino behind his teammate Jared. He is a reserve driver, however, so he hasn't got many commitments, but Kevin Harrison stays strong and holds the wall that he has become known for, to keep his teammate out of any danger. Despite the gap being 4.5 seconds, he still sat there just parking his car in the middle, leaving no room for the Ferrari sister cars, except it's going to be Jared to try and go around the outside, coming into hairpin. Now Kevin stays on the inside. Nino, can he find any gap? Jared couldn't quite make it happen, except Nino on the switchback now. It looks like they're trying to go 3 wide, but Kevin Harrison just sits in the middle, leaving them absolutely no room. The Ferrari drivers out side by side. Cummins is the long left hander. No, Kevin goes wide, and the Ferraris go through and still go side by side together now. Who's going to get in front? It's going to be Jared who stays in front. Nino dropping behind Kevin with a little bit of a mistake, despite being an absolute bus. Makes himself go wide and drops down 2 positions. The pressure from the Ferrari's got to him, and he drops out a little bit. Maybe a bit of contact was made, shoving him off, but now it's Ross Denham on the back of him. Oh no, Jared! Jared is round. Oh, silly boy. Fuzz Bottle returns, dropping down into 14th. No retirement so far, as this Lewis Scott to set fastest lap of this race. And it's Brandon Glover who gets in front of Cameron Young. That excites me every time. But Cameron unfortunately just isn't here for whatever reason. And for the McLaren team, who I said seemed like they would be so strong, drop further and further down the grid. Of course, Lewis looks like he is quick. Very much so. Of course, Edward Hart is starting on the hards and is very much holding his own to his teammate, who is just behind him but probably doesn't want to dive down the inside for obvious reasons. And then in front of him, however, 3 seconds is the gap between Lewis Curtis. The tyre difference would add up to that quite a significant amount, but either way, looking very strong now, as Kevin Harrison is still under a lot of pressure. He's not looking particularly quick and is relying on his defensive expertise during this race. Ross Denham has a habit of being a relatively aggressive driver, can get his nose stuck in, and can be quite an exciting watch for better or for worse, but it looks like he's gone very deep into some corners. His car looks like he's struggling under the brakes just to get stopped. As he looks to the inside, that's not a place you really want to go side by side, and especially go for an overtake. He's touched into the back of Kevin, almost sending himself round. Ross is looking wiggly. His car is not looking stable and planted. It is very flighty. So Ross has got to look out for that. Going out a little bit wide, potentially a warning. So penalties are quite a high likelihood in this track, as it's going to be Ross to be in a true drag race with Kevin Harrison. Looks like he's going to get in front of the Alpine cars. Now stuck it up behind him. Kevin doesn't look like he's going to try and get that back. Now he's back onto the defensive again, except he does go for it. Actually go around the outside as Ross makes a mistake and gets himself put under pressure by Connor as well. He's going to try and go the inside maybe. He had a little look but decides to back out. Cool guy getting the first 3-second time penalty of this race. But there you go. Ross then make a little bit of a mistake, and Kevin Harrison took full advantage. Again, sitting himself in the middle. Hardly even taking the apex. Just going around, making sure he's not getting overtaken. Trying to build as much of a gap as he can between any other drivers and his teammate. And Connor gets way close to Denham under the brakes. He looks a little bit stronger. Like I'm saying, Ross Denham doesn't look confident on the entry to corners, missing his apex. And well, speaking of, Connor going way out wide. Kevin again planting that car in the middle. Is not having any overtakes this time. I think the plan of his day is to just sit and make himself as much of a nuisance, as much of a big presence on the track as possible. Lewis Curtis, another fastest lap of this race, 4.5 seconds ahead of the next driver. Yellow flag to sector 2, so it looks like it's one of the Williams cars, one of the Lewis's. Unfortunate race day for them, picking up some damage early on, having to pit, so only a safety car can really save them now. Nino starting to close in the ghost car of Cameron Young, but it's Coca-Cola up into 4th now. Close up with this Red Bull team, and quite strongly so. The hard tyres of Edward Hart I don't think are doing them any favours, and it's Alfioli's job to sit and try and preserve this 2-3 they have right now, locking out what would be, actually no, it wouldn't be the second row, would it? I'm shafting out me. But Coca-Cola having a good start to this race, looking quite strong. Is this going to be Neon to get in front of Cameron Young? We're not going to look at that because it's just a Coast Car, and that's no fun for anybody. But quite a big distance grid. So far, as you can see, 16 seconds between Cool Guy and Jared, and then 5 seconds from that. So a lot of the grid are forming their own specific little trains all together. So very spread out racing so far. 6 laps into the 32. How will that change as it goes on? We're just going to have to wait and see. As the yellow flag is one of the Mercedes, I think that's Joe picking up another mistake for himself through sector what soon going to get lapped already. As you can see, Lewis is absolutely flying away from anybody else. 5 seconds is his gap, and that seems to only continue. He's looking very, very strong as Ross Denham closes in on Kevin Harrison again. The Alpine team almost going side by side. It's Shane only a tenth away from Connor. We're going to have to keep an eye on the front. This is Ross Denham trying to go up the inside of Kevin Harrison. Once again, this drag race begins. The DRS really helping Ross. There's no surprises there as he gets in front and goes up into P8. Cameron Harrison dropping down into P9. He's going to want to come back on him now, but will he be able to keep up the paces? Kevin, he is on the hard tyres, to be fair to him, so you expect the mediums to be quicker and everybody around him to be putting him under pressure, but he's been doing well parking his car, making sure he stays in front, but that can't last forever and for the boy. But there you go, the Alpine team switching places. No real dramatic fights as Shane gets very hard on the brakes, getting right up the gearbox of his teammate. There's a fight for one singular point. It looks like he wants to fight his teammate. The Alpine team both really getting this. Connor does not like that corner. It's going to be Shane to try and capitalise on that. Away he goes up to the inside. The Aston Martin looming behind him. He's up the inside goes Shane, and there you go. That's another position for him, except Connor on the exit. Going to try and get back at him. Doesn't quite make it happen. As is Kevin Harrison and Nino. Nino having a mistake, I think. Dropping behind both Alpine cars. Not quite sure what's happened there. I'm going to try and keep an eye on everything now. What does that mean, Cameron? I don't get it, my friend. But Nino all over the back of the gearbox of Connor, making a mistake, dropping out of the points. Now looking to come back, and there goes the Alpine team switching places. The DRS pulling out. Oh my god, that is unbelievable. Oh my god, contact. Around goes the Alpine. Oh, the Aston Martin, MCFC, and John Swift having to take very quick evasive action. Is Connor out of this session? Connor's spun and crashed and he's out. Oh no. Drama for the Alpine team. One goes out, one goes spinning. Good grief, what's happened there is full course caution. Is this a safety car? It looks like it. The first full safety car of this race has been deployed. And as you can see, the Williams drivers both putting into the pits while they can, going for the hard tyres, taking those to the end. I imagine the medium runners are going to do the same. This doesn't quite benefit the hard drivers in any way, shape or form. So now the softer tyre runners are able to pull in and basically execute their regular strategy with more of an advantage. So the few drivers who are on the hards currently are holding a fat L, which is not what you like to see. So Kevin Harrison's tactics of being slightly different with this strategy as per doesn't play out into his favour so far. There you go, Shane picking up a penalty as well. I'm not sure, didn't quite get a chance to read. But yeah, we have got clarification on our Cameron Young though. His game crashed, which is lovely to see. MCFC is also pretty ghosted right now. He's ghosted during quali. I'm not sure if the same's happened for MCFC with this game crashing, but this car's still moving about, still cutting about the track. So that's nice to see. But Cameron Young jumps his teammate, in fact, to get... Actually, no, that's because he hasn't pit. Why isn't he pit? Both MCFC and Cameron Young just haven't pulled into pit. Same with Jared Fosbury, which is very, very interesting. I guess Cameron didn't really want a double stack, but I'd much rather double stack because he's going to lose more positions now when he pits than he would have onto this beginning of the safety car. So Cameron Young technically in the lead of this race, but for how long? Because, yeah, actually, Sonzo just very well pointed out in the chat that Edward Hart going for the mediums. He started on the hards, moving on to the mediums, now trying to make this a two-stop, I imagine, because there's no way the mediums are going to make, what's that, let's say 20 laps. I highly doubt mediums are going more than 20 laps, which is what Edward Hart will either try and do, or gamble on another safety car and pull into the pits then for a second time. So, a bold strategy choice from the Englishman. Will he be able to make it work? We're just going to have to wait and see. Of course, we've seen a few spins, a few little incidents. This does bring the racing closer together, which is lovely to see. But what difference will this make for Edward Hart and his race strategy? Is this a bold choice? And it could absolutely work. It could be an absolute masterclass. But in reality, what are the chances? It's quite a specific thing to get right. If it's one lap too early, one lap too late, makes a difference. So, yeah, some quite normal strategy calls. Everybody on the mediums pulling in for the hards as you'd expect, but I don't really know what to think about that. Because Cameron Young as well, choosing to stay out on the mediums, they won't have too much life left in them to get much further, so he's just going to drop positions. I don't know why they haven't pit, because I thought that was quite a clear-cut, easy choice. So get yourself to the end of this race, which is more important than anything else, and good racing. Well, good racing is very much appreciated, but getting to the end as a driver, I'd much rather just finish. So, yeah, another safety car is very possible. We've had a virtual safety car and a full course. Full course? Full safety car so far this race, and we're only 10 laps in. One retirement with Connor going out, I believe, all on his own. So, again, anything can happen. We've seen the Williams drivers make some contact together. Front wingers like to blow up on this track, apparently, as we've seen a very small piece of contact have dramatic consequences. There's a lot to unpack here in a minute. We're going to have one more lap under the safety car, and then we're going to start getting ready to go again. It is just kind of a waiting game now to get back racing. Only two drivers so far have picked up a penalty, that being Cool Guy and Shane. Both quite far down the order. Of course, Cool Guy being in the points, it can make a difference towards the end of the race, but I feel like by the time we reach around lap 20 to 25, a few more of those black and white flags are going to start popping up on our screen, making their presence known, and depending on how the front drivers do in the later stages of this race, it could have a drastic effect on the podium. We've seen it happen before. Race wins are decided on penalties, so consistency is a virtue and will be rewarded. As long as you keep the car within those nice white lines and not clout any curves a little bit too hard, then you're pretty much alright. And depending on what tracks, let's say France, a very high penalty track, you can make 6 positions if you're lucky, especially with a late safety car, and oh, good grief. Everything plays into your favour. We've got another 20 laps or so left in this race. Some people are going to try and push our mediums that long. Perhaps it'll be very, very tricky. Potentially possible, but definitely not quick. So, safety car is going to be in this lap, and it's going to be Cameron Young to take us away on his 10-lap-old mediums. That's one man who won't be taking those mediums to the end, because they genuinely stand no chance of making it. So, Cameron's going to do a few more laps on his mediums, probably to do a defensive drive for his teammate Lewis behind him. We're going to pull up the telemetry so we can see when he goes away. It looks like his foot is pretty much almost already down. It's going to be quite an early release, I think. There you go. No, kind of holding a little bit. I forgot Cameron's not in this race, is he? Oh my god, I'm so dumb. There you go, Lewis Curtis moves up into the front. MCFC also getting overtaken, going side by side, coming into first corner. It's very hard to see with all these ghost cars. It looks like Edward Hart is under pressure from Coca-Cola. Now for Terry car trying to go around the outside, inside of McLaren right now. MCFC and Cameron Young both making themselves big presences on the track. And Coca-Cola moves up into third because of that. Alfieri down into sixth. Not looking good for him as he's almost getting overtaken by the ghost car as well. As Cool Guy down into seventh as well. Or maybe that's up into 7th, sorry, is Cameron Young. Oh, the Alfa Romeo of Brandon Glover going out very, very wide, putting himself under a bit of pressure. The Ferrari car of Jared Fosbury doing very well in those mediums. Up into 4th place he goes. He's going to try and make a move on Coca-Cola ahead of him. Coca-Cola going out very, very wide. And there you go. Jared takes his opportunity. He's having to go around the outside. It's very hard to do. And there you go. He gets the position done. Coca-Cola doesn't decide to fight him too hard. And there you go. Lewis goes up into 1st position and wants to run away with this one now. Edward Hart back into 2nd where he belongs. Smashing over that curb. I won't be surprised if that's a warning at least. Nino moving up into 8th place. So again past that ghost car, which are incredibly, incredibly annoying. I like how Cameron told me that I'm not actually in the race. I was wondering why everything looked weird. But cool guy, he's right on the back of Alfioli. Alfioli did start very high up in this grid, but now he's only sat down in 6th. I imagine he'll start to climb his way back up as a few people start to pit. Our top 5 is well within reach for both Red Bull cars, more than so. Brandon Glover's now coming up behind Coca-Cola. It's this laggy to retire out this session. Looks like he's done that in the pits. Coca-Cola having a very, very bad accident. It's going to be Alfa Romeo driving to go up the inside in a very high speed corner. They're going to have to be very careful to go side by side here, and that Brandon Glover gets the move done. Coca-Cola moves to, oh no! Jared Fosbury spins and crashes and takes Glover with him. One of our, and it's another safety car, but one of our title contenders smashes out of this race. As it's Jared Fosbury with a dramatic crash with huge consequences. Good grief. That was a massive crash. I don't think Brandon could do anything to avoid that. That was huge. Carbon fibre everywhere, and as Kevin Harrison sat down to 14th as well, so it's not a good day for the Alfa Romeo team, and this gives some of the hard drivers, medium drivers, a second chance to go with some fresh tyres. I've said tyres so many times, but yeah, this changes strategy again as 3 more laps onto the safety car could mean the difference between puncture or no puncture. Lewis decides to stay out on his hards, no surprises there. Edward Hart pulls into the pits. The medium tyres didn't really make much of a difference in the end as the Ferrari driver blows out of this race as Coca-Cola gets a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. But wow, that was proper drama. There goes the ghost car of Cameron Young. Pretty much everybody pulling into the pits now, besides from Kevin up to Lewis, which kind of makes sense. I think the medium tyres, could they make it to the end? I think with this extra safety car, it certainly adds that possibility to push the tyres all the way to the end, but they just won't be very quick and won't be very fun. So I think everybody from 5th upwards, quite a few drivers now are pitting onto the mediums. So I think the hard drivers who are currently out and the slightly more worn tyres are going to have a very tricky start to this stint. So almost halfway through the race, I think people like Edward Hart, Coca-Cola, John Swift are going to be in the strongest position of this race now. But it's going to be tricky to get past all those cars. So Edward Hart, I think, as of right now, has the highest chance of doing well in this race. Potentially with a win, I want to say that, but it's Lewis and Alfioli as well, quick drivers on their hards. There's a lot of drivers in between. There's a lot of drivers in between Edward Hart and Lewis Curtis. 7 of which, so it's going to be a big task for Edward. But with his fresh mediums that he slapped on, starting on the hards, don't forget, so he can go to the end on these tyres if he wants to. It's going to be quite a lot of saving and quite a lot of conservatism, but it is very much possible to complete. So it's going to be a proper juggle between consistency and pace for him, and then pretty much merely consistency for Lewis Curtis and Alfioli in 1 and 2. So this race is starting to heat up with strategies. Both AlphaTauri cars are rounding out the back of this grid. It's Coca-Cola and Masten, and both sitting in the back there. The Aston Martin cars following them up in 11th and 12th. 2 teams currently not sitting the points right now. Cameron Young looked quick, but his game crashed and unfortunately isn't here. Unsure if he actually gets the points if his AR finishes there, but I kind of doubt it. Mercedes team doing quite alright for themselves, and the Red Bull team looking like they're in a very strong position right now. Unfortunately, Alfa Romeo, one of the constructors' favourites, aren't looking too great right now, with Brandon Glover crashing out of this race and having a big hit to his driver's title hopes. And as you can see, he says, "We are very unlucky." It is very unlucky. What? Coca-Cola, what happened to you? But Jared's crash has made a very big impact on this race. I mean, Fuzzbottle coming in with full effect and changing the landscape, the course of this race, completely just turning it on its head, making everything so much more difficult for everybody involved. Oh, he got collected. Yeah, I feel bad for Brandon. There's no avoiding that. Jared just spins and bang, no ghosting, just collision and pain. So unfortunate for the Alfa Romeo team, they're not looking too great right now as Kevin pulls into the pits. I'm not sure what for, but he drops out of the points now, so Alfa Romeo taking another hit, dropping all the way to the back. It's not looking like it's a good day for the Italian team. But it is looking like it's a good day for Red Bull, at least, who look the strongest, look the quickest as of right now. Of course, Lewis is putting in a shift for... Yeah, Lewis is putting in a shift for McLaren. Unfortunately, the game is just broken, and Cameron Young's game crashed and didn't get a restart, couldn't get back in. So, yeah. We are having complaints about the crossplay. I'm not sure what the problem with the crossplay is, because I know John Swift is a PC player, and Matthew Older, I believe, is hosting this off of PC. So I don't know what the problems are. Does it cause more glitches in the lobby or what? Lag spikes every few laps? Interesting. That's not fun for anyone. This game is still broken. So our F1 games will probably never get fixed, and we're going to have to deal with this stress for the rest of our lives. But anyway, we're about to get underway again this time. Another McLaren is going to be leading us off the start, but at least this one is actually driving. So Tax is someone who will begin driving. It's a very long straight, but the start-finish line is very close to the exit of this corner. So I imagine he's going to put his foot down straight away as he comes out of this final corner. You can see just picking up the pace a little bit, sitting around 100 kilometers an hour, and there you go, the foot is down as Lewis Curtis gets us driving again. Alfieri, he's had a fantastic restart, he's going to be going side by side, coming across the line, and ooh, it has to pull back behind him though. Back to the situation he goes, as Alfieri going to try and take the lead of this race. McLaren is under a lot of pressure here, sitting right in the middle. It's quite a difficult corner to overtake, and there you go, the Alpine goes up the inside of his Williams friends, still goes side by side. In fact, I didn't expect them to manage that. And there goes the Alpine into the wall again, another crash and another retirement, and there you go with Shane out of this race. Oh, it's carnage already side by side for Joe in this Mercedes on the Williams, and here comes Edward Hart up into 6th place already, trying to go around the outside into the hairpin, getting forced out a little bit as Joe sits ahead of him. Gives him plenty of room there. So lucky him, but another retirement. Out goes Shane with a big crash, spinning off into the wall. Luckily it's a little bit too close to the end of that safety car for another one to happen, which is probably quite good for us, as we've just gone past the halfway point in this race as Shane is leaving the session as well. He's had enough, and here comes Edward Hart trying to dive up the inside of Mercedes. Maybe had a little look, and the Mercedes goes deep, and he's going to go around the outside, and surely it's going to be his position for the take. And there you go, Cool Guy as well gets past his team, and now it's Joe under pressure from MCFC, the ghost car, as well as Cameron Young, which is just no interest to anyone. Nino Romanello, however, sitting up in 3rd right now. He's looking quite well for himself, as Edward Hart already up into 5th position. Fantastic restart from him. And his pace looks good, and his pace looks strong. Edward Hart now coming up behind the Williams car of Lordy ahead of him. He's definitely looking quicker. Everybody in front of him is on hard tyres. Edward is on fresh mediums. He's looking quick. He's one of the fastest drivers in here anyway. And he's certainly proven that now as he's all over the back of the gearboxes. Ross then picks up a 5-second time penalty speeding in the pit lane. He drops into the pits and he's retired from the session as well. So that's the end of his race. How boring. Already we've had, what's that, 6 retirements? Hang on, we're going to look at Edward. He tries to go without being inside, but backs out again. Chooses to save his car. Conserve damage, really. It's more because he will get past eventually. And oh, who's that? That's Alfioli making a mistake. And there goes Nino moving up into second place. Alfioli going deep. Not quite hitting his point on the brakes, not hitting the apex, and away he goes and drops down a position and brings himself one step closer to his teammate. Nino moving up into second place. He'll be very happy with that. And it's going to be Coca-Cola going past the Ghost car. How uninteresting. Edward Hart going up the inside. Not somewhere you'd expect in the second last corner. Again for the final one. Still pushing each other side by side, giving plenty of room. Great racing between them. That's gentlemanly like. DRS is now enabling. There's now a drag race going down this straight. It's a Mercedes driver in the slipstream though, so Edward Hart isn't done and dusted just yet. He's beaten Lordy on the straight, but also beats Cool Guy in just straight line speed despite the slipstream. Very well done from Edward Hart, moving up into 4th position, and now it's his teammate next for the podium positions, and then it's Nino, and then it's for final bus Lewis. So don't be surprised if you start hearing boss music in the next few laps, because Edward Hart is on a rampage and he's going for this race win. He's going for that championship. John Swift moving up into 10th position now, so everybody in the top 10 are the final people who are actually driving. The other 2 are ghost cars, not in this race, so we only have 10 human functioning drivers for the end. It's quite disappointing to see, considering we started with 18 drivers. To be left with 10 is not great with 13 laps or so to go. And who is that going wide? Is that Nino? It must have been, considering his 3-second time, but he's been going way out wide. Not looking good for Nino, but now Edward Hart, he's going to have slipstream and DRS on his teammate, plus the pull from the Ferrari ahead of him, so I think some Red Bull team orders are going to be put into effect here. I won't be surprised, in all honesty, as there goes Edward Hart, blows past his teammate. Alfioli can pretty much keep his foot on, make a contact with him. No way! Alfioli has spotted out his own teammate Edward Hart, who looked like he could have won this race. He was so quick for so long. Alfioli gets his braking point wrong and spins his own teammate out, goes side by side with Cool Guy, moves up to 3rd position. Alfioli took out his own teammate. Oh my god. What has he done? What has he done? Sabotage in the Red Bull garage. That's worse than Multi-21. Oh my god. Edward Hart's got it all to do now. From 8th position all the way back to 1st. What's that, about 10 seconds to make up herself? I'm just going to say 10 seconds because it's easy that way. I can't bother to check officially. But now Edward Hart has got everything to do to try and get back up, as everything seemed fine. The team orders were perfect. Edward Hart goes breezing past Alfioli, kept his foot in, thought he was fine. Boom, gone. All changes, gets his braking point wrong, just like we saw him go deep a minute ago. Does the same again, taps Edward's rear. Round he goes and he's dead, and he's gone. The scenes, and now it's going to be Alfioli to try and get past the Mercedes. Cool Guy pushing him to the inside a little bit, but the DRS and slipstream and overtake always going to come out on top there, except the Mercedes driver isn't done just yet. He's still trying to come back at him now. The overtake is open. He moves up to the inside, trying to get up the inside into the chicane. Very tricky to do, but he's lucky to get away with that unscathed. But now coming up to the hairpin, Alfioli moves up to the outside. It's going to be a Mercedes driver up the inside on the brakes. He gets the move done. Lovely stuff. Can Alfioli get that switchback? John Swift picks up a 3-second time penalty as well. It's the Mercedes driver who stays ahead. Cool Guy into 3rd. Alfioli just following him round, pushing him along, looking to pick up a podium after he sacrificed some points for his team. He may as well get a good result out of this race. We're all waiting for the Curtis bottle, don't you worry, Sandre. It could be coming, but as of right now, with 11 laps to go, he is looking good and he's looking strong. 1.3 seconds is his gap to Nino right now. Nino has 3-second time penalty, so does Cool Guy. Alfioli is looking quite fine. He's just about within the 3 seconds of Nino, so he's currently in net P2. But can he clear this Mercedes driver quick enough He's going to have the DRS in his slipstream. Has way more ERS. So I imagine this move is going to be pretty done and dusted as Edward Hart sits the fastest lap of this race. As you can see, he is quick. Despite the spin, despite the slightly heated tyres and more worn tyres, due to his teammates spinning him round, and this cool guy gets overtaken by Alfioli, which is absolutely no surprise on the drag race. It's Lordi only 2 tenths behind Jozo, the Mercedes drivers both together on the track. Now, why do we apparently have 338 comments? There's absolutely no way. PlayStation's broken. Now it's Edward Hart who's just behind this as well. So Edward is still in this group. He's still in this fight for the top 5, 100%. He's just got a little bit more work to do with 10 laps to go. I don't think he's going to be able to reach, possibly reach the podium. I'm not sure he's going to be able to reach the race win. That looked like it was so strong, and the Williams driver gone out a little bit wide. Lordi nearly making himself a vulnerable target for Edward. Edward still sits in 7th position, but 6th place is still very possible for him. Just seeking that inside line, but it isn't quite coming to fruition for him. And there you go, it's Alfioli getting overtaken by Cool Guy up the front here. Everything's heating up for this 3rd position. It's going to be hard to go side by side through these exact 2 corners. Alfioli does the smart thing and backs out and lets him go in front of him again. But now let's not forget, I believe he might have DRS. He does, which is what he wanted all along. And now in the drag race, it's all going to be his. And whoa, Lordi making a late swing into the pits and picks up a 5-second time penalty for it. Now it's Edward Hart. Drivers ahead of him do have penalties. Alfioli up into 3rd position. No surprises there. Edward Hart, everybody in front of him, besides 2, have penalties. So he's going to get that anyway, but he needs to clear them to be able to try and challenge Lewis Curtis up at the front. He's almost within a second of Joe. And then it's Cool Guy. And then it's back to his teammate again. Could you imagine if Alfioli spun Edward Hart for a second time? I'd scream. My poor neighbours, it's 9 o'clock on a Saturday night. They don't want to hear me screaming so much. Like, good grief. Now Cool Guy trying to come back on Alfioli, but Alfie just needs a little bit more pace to just sneak his way closer to Nino. If he can get within the DRS of Nino, I think he's clear and I think he's fine. He just needs to pick up the pace a little bit so he isn't under so much pressure from the Mercedes behind him, because the more he does this, the less likely he's going to be able to challenge Nino, challenge for that 2nd place and stay within the 3 seconds. He's right in the middle right now, 1.3 seconds, so he's got a little bit of leeway. He can fight a little bit longer, but too much, and he's going to lose out on that potential 2nd place. Lewis Curtis still sitting very, very pretty, 3 seconds ahead of Nino in front. So I think right now Lewis is very much in the driving seat of this race and should win. But this is Lewis Curtis. The possibility of a bottle is very likely. So I feel as though we can't really say anything for certain. I just realised we've had another retirement. It's John Swift who's out of this race, and we've only got 9 drivers still left living and existing. Lordi being the final one of those. MCFC's coming up behind the ghost car of Cameron Young. Cool Guy still all over the back of Alfioli now though. Yet not able to make a move this time. It's Edward Hart who's right behind this train. He's going to want to clear the first Mercedes, get past the 2nd one. He's looking quick and looking feisty. Then he's going to have to try and clear his teammate for the 2nd time and hope he doesn't spin him out. So a 3rd place is very much on the cards for Edward Hart. I think it's quite a simple 3rd place, technically, considering his pace and the penalties and everything, but a 2nd place is starting to look a little bit more elusive, although Alfioli is starting to close in on Nino. And never mind, Edward Hart gets the 3-second time penalty. I was just saying how he had the advantage on that, but now he's made it so much more difficult for himself, and that 3rd place looks less likely. So Edward Hart changing the face of his race once more and gives himself even more work to do. It could be driver of the day worthy, but it really depends. Lots of situationships going on in this race. Very hard to put your finger on it. Still very, very unpredictable. 7 laps to go. A lot can still change, but it's the Red Bull driver just absolutely pushing that Mercedes. He needs this overtake done, and he's got his ERS open. He wants this move, but he's just not quite able to make it stick. Oh, getting late on the brakes, pushing him round the hairpin. Lucky not to make contact. Keeps it on the track, however, and the ERS is open again. He's got almost none left to give, but he just has to clear this Mercedes. He's trying to go up the inside, and what's happened? Huh? This game is so broken. Okay, so now Edward is 1.6 seconds away from the next Mercedes car. He's into the top 5 now, but he's got a lot to do to make this podium happen. A lot to do. I think Alfieri is now looking the strongest. It's still a good result for the Red Bull team. And they're going to pick up a nice, tidy haul of points to help them on their way to the Constructors' title. They missed out on last season's Aston Martin team, but the now Alfa Romeo team have not had a good day. Kevin Harrison only picking up about 4 points. So it's not looking good for him, but now it's Nino Romanello who is under a bit of pressure. This Ferrari driver is not in the clear just yet. It's Alfieri all over the back of him, and he is looking hungry. He could get this position on the penalties alone, but he wants it on track. It's so much more satisfying that way. You can tell he's hungry for it. He wants it. He's not going to be able to challenge Lewis for this race win unless Lewis does something. God forbid. So there's still a lot to play for. Edward Hart is closing in. He's gained a few seconds. Oh, there you go. Nino makes a little bit of a mistake, and Alfieri just drives past him. Easy as you like. Nino picking up another penalty. That's going to drop him down a couple of positions. Edward Hart's going to be within the DRS for the big main straight where it matters. So Edward Hart's still in this. Alfieri moving up in the second. A podium is back on the cards for our Edward. Joel picks up a 3-second time penalty as well. Not the first one of his, I don't think, but Nino, he's going to have DRS restriction. Never mind, Alfieri gets a 3-second time penalty. No one is safe. Oh, Nino! Nino, after all spinning into the track, he's lucky not to collect anybody. Lewis cuts the first stop in the race. He is out of this race. The rear tyre comes off. That's a yellow flag, 6 to 1, 2, 3. Is that a full course? Is that a full safety car? It is! It's the third one. It's going to be a sprint to the line, and Lewis Curtis doesn't have to worry about penalties, but the existence of a bottle is very, very strong, and Joe is just pit for the softs, and that could help him out. Absolutely no, and that is perfect for him. If he can close up to the drivers ahead of him, he may well be able to put himself in a very, very high possibility of getting on the podium. There's a lot of cars to clear and there's quite a big gap, so he's going to have to put his foot down, but I think it could be possible. Nino, with a big mistake, he could have had the podium, he could have had the top 5, but spins and crashes and his inconsistencies once again plague him. Nino crashes out of this race and gives us a third safety car this race. Absolute scenes. Absolute scenes. Good grief. You never thought you'd see anything like it. Now, looking at it, we've got Lewis Curtis pulling into the pits. Absolutely no surprise, those 18-lap old hards. He's going to want to get off of those as soon as possible. That's exactly what he does. He's going to go into the softs. I imagine, there you go, Alfieri, cool guy, Edward, Colt Calder, everybody follows him in. No surprises there. Everybody dropping into the pits for the soft tyres. Trying to see if there's any double stacks going on. I'm not sure if the Red Bull team have had a double stack or not, but Edward stays in 5th, 4th. It's all quite hard to keep a track of, but everybody seems to be on the softs, other than Cameron Young and MCFC, who stay on the hard, so they're going to be ghost cars. Just in the way once again, but Lewis Curtis, actually probably in a very good position, considering he has no ghost cars to worry about. Puts himself in a good position to not be under any threat from Alfieri. Of course, doesn't have any penalties, so makes his life easy again. So, I mean, if these ghost cars can keep up enough, they could be on for a good result here. They won't get the points, but it'd be nice to see your name quite high up, I don't just think. So, everybody is on the softs, which is no surprise. We all know it would happen, as people are trying to change around positions, which is weird. I don't like the fact the ghost cars are here. I think that's going to just get in the way, and it's going to make everything way more difficult than it needs to be. So of course they're going to be blocking vision. They're going to be adding to the chaos and the cluster of just the whole fight, the whole grid, the whole race, everything. They're just going to be in the way, making life hard for me as a commentator and everybody racing to try and get past that next car. Trying to have to be wary to be able to actually see the track, keep the car on the track within those nice white lines and not hit any of the green, yellow barriers on the side. It's going to be about a 2-lap shootout, I believe. Because we'll have this next lap, and then we'll have 3 laps under green flag conditions. It's going to be Lordy, the final one, to bring us up to the grid. We only have 8 drivers left in this race, which is mental. We've had 10 retirements, which is a ridiculous number. Also, I don't know why that comments thing is so high, because my YouTube just isn't coming up with any. So I'm going to move off of that screen because I want to see what is going on. Yeah, it's just being weird. We don't have 600 comments. Don't know what it's on about. So Edward Hart getting those penalties is really hurt his chances. There's no other way to put it. He could have had a pretty comfortable podium. He still has quite a comfortable podium, I think, if he can just make a couple more positions, but the tyre advantage is now gone. But considering his pace, I think he is still very much within reach of that podium, quite simply so. But it has made his life a little bit more difficult, which isn't what you want to see, but I don't think it'll matter to him too much. Lewis Curtis, again, has been in the driving seat all race. He's been the quickest. There's no doubt about that. Just can he keep it on the track for the last 3 laps? The pressure, the intensity, Hart's going to be in the mouth. It's going to be quite intense. As long as he can just keep it, I think he'll be alright. It's just a question of, does he not bottle? He has been prone to in the past. We all know it. We've seen it before. We've been commenting on it throughout the race. But now is Lewis's time to prove us wrong. Because he has been looking strong and he has been looking consistent. So, oh, I almost dropped my controller. So, I feel like he doesn't have too much to worry about. He's going to be safety car in this lap. We're going to stay on board with Lewis. And we're going to watch his telemetry as we wait to see when that throttle goes down, when hammer time begins. It's quite a long lead up, and he almost got put under pressure from Alfioli last time. Very much so, but now luckily there's a 2-car barrier between them, so foot is down and away he goes, clearing a massive gap already. The ghost cars are going to be so in the way, but now it's going to be Cool Guy's going to try and come up behind Alfioli. Massive leg spike there, that's going to do no favours. But here comes Cool Guy behind Alfioli. The Red Bull driver's under a lot of pressure here. He's set up right in the middle, and there he goes, diving up the inside. He gets very late on the brakes. Alfioli's been overtaken, very much so, and his Edward Hart behind him now. A little bit of contact there. Golden trying to go side by side once more. Lag spike. Oh, this game is horrific. Now he's ghosted and he's inside of Edward Hart. That's made everything really awkward. Somebody tried to call me. What's going on? Sorry, Edward Hart trying to get past Cool Guy. Doesn't make it happen this time. The McLaren ghost car making itself a nuisance once more, but Alfioli moving up into 2nd place. Edward Hart is only 1 position away from a podium, and I think he could be able to do it here. He's looking quick and he's looking strong. I got distracted a little bit by other things around my house. Kevin Harrison getting past the ghost car of MCFC as well. Coca-Cola sitting in a nice top 5 position for him right now, but the focus is on the front 3 or so here. Lewis Curtis is 1 second ahead, so he's looking quite clear and he's looking quite fine. Lordy gets in front of the ghost car as well. Joe getting past the ghost car of MCFC, so only 10 cars left in this race. 8 who are actually functioning, breathing human beings. Edward Hart really pulling behind Cool Guy here. He's looking for the inside into the first chicane, but I don't think he's going to be able to do it. He's just going to have to sit behind. He's going to look to this hairpin. I think he's going to wait just a little bit longer. He's still got the ERS open though. He wants to get it done early, but I think the hairpin is his best chance to make a nice clean move. Alfioli, his teammate as well, is just there. I think in terms of team orders, just repaying him, letting him back through could be a good choice, but I kind of doubt that'll happen. Except Edward Hart couldn't quite get close enough. As Lordy gets past Kevin at the back there. Kevin, is he going to be able to fight back? Doesn't look like he's going to put up too much of a fight. And away goes Lordy ahead of him once more. Nothing too dramatic there. Edward Hart just doesn't look very close to Cool Guy. The podium could be just out of his reach now. He's not going to have DRS on this straight, so it's all down to the ERS. Cool Guy is a little bit more, and he has the toe of his teammate ahead of him. Can Edward Hart make this move? Kevin Harrison is also looking for that 6th place as well to get a few more little points for the Alfa Romeo team. How possible will that be for him? I do not know. But Edward Hart, all eyes are on him. Lewis sets the fastest lap of this race. No surprises there. 4/10 is the gap. Edward almost has nothing left to give. He's trying so hard. Cool Guy also opened up his ERS and Edward just isn't close enough. On the final lap of the race we go. Lewis Curtis is 2 seconds ahead of the next car. And it's Alfieri who's looking like he's going to be taking a comfortable 2nd place unless he makes a mistake, and it's going to be Cool Guy to come up behind him, and maybe even his teammate, God forbid. Edward, I'm not sure he quite has the pace. The tyre advantage helped him out before, but that's now gone. On equal playing field, I'm not sure he's going to be able to quite keep it together unless he goes for an almighty lunge or Cool Guy makes a mistake here. It looks less and less likely as you get close to the end of this race. Lewis Curtis is starting to look a little bit slower. I've got 4/10 eaten into him there. Oh, Edward Hart making a big mistake going out wide. Somehow keeps this gap. Very luckily so. It's Lordy all over the back of Kevin Harrison as well. Kevin, he's going to have to make his car a bus. We saw him do it earlier. He's going to do it again. Really pushing him through there is Lordy. That's very close indeed. But Edward doesn't look like he's going to be close enough. This time Joe, he's going side by side with Lordy coming up to the line though. Up the inside he goes, a little bit of contact as Lordy going around the outside. Joe keeps his nose in but doesn't quite do it. Lewis takes the win of this race today. Alfieri into 2nd. Edward Hart getting beaten to the podium by Coca-Cola, coming home in 4th. Coca-Cola picking up a last minute podium on penalties. Very well done from him. 4th comes Edward Hart. What a race that was. Plenty of incidents. The safety cars changing the space of this race every single time. Absolute drama. Coca-Cola celebrates in the chat. A massive result for him. After saying that he wasn't very quick today, after not having the best qualifying in his life, suddenly comes out of nowhere to take a nice tidy P3, and it's Lewis Curtis, as you can see, walking out onto the podium, but we don't care about that. It is Lewis from the McLaren team to come home in P1 and take a great result for them to push themselves to the front of this Constructors title. But the Red Bull team still hold out their lead with a 2nd and 4th together. Very well done from them, except Edward Hart could have been looking at a race win today if it wasn't for his own teammate spinning him out, which is absolute drama, and I wish I could have heard the party for that. Coca-Cola coming home in the surprise 3rd, and Kevin Harrison getting a good result for Alfa Romeo. They're coming home in P5 in the end. Like I said, consistency is rewarding, and that's what happens for him. Despite being a 2nd slower than someone like Edward ahead of him, still comes home in P5. Very well done from him. The Swiss guy, the Swissman, Cool Guy, coming home in 6th from P16. Fantastic race from him. Lordy coming home 7th in for the Williams team, and then Joe, the final actual finisher of this race in MCFC and Cameron Young both unfortunately had their games crashed. Nino, John Swift, Ross Denham, Shane, Brandon Glover, Jared Fosbury, Laggy and Connor all retiring out of this race. But anyway, I thank you all very much for watching this eventful event. It was really quite something, I have to admit. I'll be back next week. Not quite sure what the track is, but anyway, this has been IRL Season 14 F1 Round 2 in Imola. Thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you all soon. Thank you. Goodbye.